I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to do this. This is something kind of near and dear to my heart. I should correct Russ that I'm not in charge of this. I work for the 7 board members, and I think there's a slide here that um, I'll get into that. Basically, this is a quick down and dirty presentation to answers the 3 questions on the screen there: who we are, what we do, and how you can help. Um, a brief history is this thing started when Sam Furukawa decided that he needed to help with preserving some of the uh, equipment out there, and he gathered a crew together, and they started doing this. Um, so that's evolved today into the current board and myself. I replaced Charlie Getz, who did this for about 18 or 20 years. And how we operate is we basically take in applications for people who are rehabbing or trying to bring back to life various pieces of equipment, as well as models and artwork. The philosophy is we primarily want to do matching grants so that every buck we give an organization, it actually means they've raised an equal dollar per dollar. So it's our bucks double in the project. Memberships are $45 a year. That's the regular membership. We do have sustaining memberships and sponsorships, and that's all will be at the slides toward the end. All of this is on the web page, which is the NGPF. We sold the rights to ngpf.com to another group. That was before I got involved. So it's thengpf.org. We're going to show you some of the past projects and some of the possible future plans. I might make a comment that originally there was a concept that the collection of models and artwork could have been put into a narrow gauge model railroad museum.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. It looks like a router issue. So try restarting it. Unplug the router.
I have Alexa talking to me in the background here. But that plan is kind of on hold. I don't see that in the very near future. That may generate some more interest and operation when the NMRA has put an exhibit within the California Railroad Museum. It's open and seems to be pretty successful. And it's interesting that probably a good portion, more than half of the exhibit, are actually narrow gauge models. So if you have a chance to get there, it's worth going to see. Possibly that will, when that exhibit starts being looked at, it's a future museum, the NGPF will be able to participate jointly with that. Okay, this organization, excuse me, was formed as the Narrow Gauge Trust in 2000, established to help the narrow gauge community, as I've said, both in redoing prototype objects as well as collect pertinent models and artwork. In 2002, it got incorporated as the Narrow Gauge Preservation Foundation. And at some point after 2002, or maybe in 2002, secured the eleemosynary status, the 501c3 from the IRS. The people involved is Jimmy Booth, who I think everybody on the screen knows, is the current chair. Sam Furukawa is the founding member, is still on the board. Fred Hill is an original board member. Richard Rands with Anvil Mountains, used to be with Microengineering. He is our treasurer. Bob Statt used to own McHenry Couplers and San Juan Car Company and American Model Exchange, and he's sort of retired at this point. But he is our vice chair on the board. Lindsay Raley from down in Florida, and Steve Fridiani makes up the board. These are the people that make the decisions. I only try to carry out what they tell me to do, with the emphasis on try. How we operate is I am the only paid position. There's no board of directors compensation. These numbers are a little bit old, but there's over $1.2 million in grants have been made since the organization was formed. Overhead costs are at 5% and it fluctuates from 4 to 6. The portion of your dues, $20 of whatever dues level you pay, is used to cover the administrative costs and any sales. And we sell all 3 of Sam's books and his video. In fact, you get a free copy of the video when you join. The attempt is to create interactive exhibits where the public can learn about narrow gauge. There was one in Chama, but the Chama layout that PBL had put together is now one of the exhibits in the California Railroad Museum. We've attempted, or we have assisted preservation efforts all over North America. Obviously, we've been accused of concentrating on Colorado or in California, but that's where a large percentage of our modeling interests or the prototype operations are in Colorado and California. And then we're not so much now, but we're willing to accept models and prototype artifacts, and we'll make an effort to find, since we don't have it, there's not a museum set to at this point that we're going to participate in. We will take these. The donor can take a possible deduction, and we will find a home for this. An example of that is we had a series of models donated, and they were Colorado and Southern leaning models. Those we made an arrangement with the group at Como to take these, and they will put them in their exhibits and as they get their projects underway. I might state that they're a pretty active group. We seek out good projects. We try not to concentrate in one area, but we can't control what's submitted to us. We favor matching grants. Every grant that I know of has been a matching grant. As I stated earlier, it's an attempt to double the impact of the funding that we can provide. We're always willing to talk to anybody from anywhere around the country interested in doing a preservation project. And obviously we try to make a difference. I can tell you that since I've been on working for the board, I can't think of a submittal that we haven't funded to some extent, not always at the level that was requested, but we've taken care of as much as we could afford. I think I'm pretty much covered the stuff on this slide. For those of you that have been to our clinic at the narrow gauge conventions, you'll recognize this. I've been told by a board member this will be the last time this is ever seen again. One of our board members is working really hard to update it and I'm providing him with updated pictures and stuff. But briefly, the corporate membership is $90. Sustaining membership is $150. The general membership is $45 a year. And if you go to the narrow gauge conventions and come by my booth for the foundation, I'm going to be asking you to consider additional funds. But you can be a member for $45. We have a high retention rate. And I guess the membership started in 2014 when it became obvious that Sam was not going to be able to support this group to the extent that he had in the past. But I don't think Sam gets enough credit that he's really the reason this whole group was established. We try to get out, issue newsletters. I'm not really an author. I can edit submittals, would request every time I get a chance that members submit information to me so I can share that with the rest of the membership. If you don't get a newsletter, it's not that we don't care, it's just that we haven't had anything submitted. These are some pictures of past projects. And I can't give you the amount that we did on each of these projects because I've only been here since the Sacramento narrow gauge, so about 2 years. But we participated in funding a number 463. The Chama layout, which was built by PBL and donated to the foundation, and then it was set up in the Interpretive Center in Chama. And it's now at the California State Railroad Museum. I think this lady in the picture is the governor of New Mexico. And I think that I know that the back head you're looking at is Sam. We put money into the repair and renovation of the turntable at the Colorado Railroad Museum, the Ardenwood car barn. We helped with the building of that facility to keep all these locomotives undercover. Here's a listing of stuff we've done. We worked with the Tweetsie on trucks for rolling stock. We helped acquire the EBT hoppers that are on the Cumbers and Toltec. We accepted the models of Len Madsen, some beautiful 8-joint-3 models. SB narrow gauge number 18 was one of the projects we provided some funding for. Number 169, the business car. Several model collections and book libraries. And we have a collection here in Jeff City that
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
The modules, the buildings are all from Como or depicting Como, and those have been committed to the foundation, and we've already talked with the Como people about accepting this as part of their display. We also have, I would say, a rather large art collection that we were actually going to have an auction. I had worked with Pete and John and the committee in St. Louis. And
so try restarting it.
But of course, when it was canceled, that eliminated the art auction. So at some point, we're going to make these mostly original pieces available to the membership. We'll offer it there first. We did money for RGS number 20 and number 168. And then there was some award-winning half-inch scale models that we got. I think there's some pictures of those here. This is one of them. And these were donated to the foundation. We still have most of these in our possession and are in storage. Actually, they're here in my basement, but not behind my head. Some of the other projects, the SPNC, the depot roof, the Como rail yard restoration has been, these fellows, there's two organizations that operate out at Como. One is the Denver and South Park and Pacific Historical Society, and they're working to restore the water tank. And then which we help or are helping fund. And then there's the South Park Railway Society, and they are the ones trying to acquire and refurbish one of every class of boxcar that was used by the Colorado and Southern Railroad. And we've committed money to work on that. Number 168's tender. We worked with, provided some funding for that, funding for the SP narrow gauge number 18. The West Side Snowplow, which is actually being done by the Nevada County Narrow Gauge Museum in California. And that's been a slow project because that one got approved and funded right before COVID hit. So obviously they've been delayed on that, but they are working on that. I mentioned the boxcar restoration project, the Rotary OY, we worked with, we're involved with the new copper roofing that's over the cab on that. And I mentioned the water tank. And out of Colorado or California area, the Waynesburg and Washington group has a 460, I believe it is. It's a number 4, and they didn't have an engine house, or they were able to put the engine house up, just the 4 walls. And we helped them with the paving of the floor so they could actually disassemble the locomotive for restoration and not lose the stuff in the gravel. I have no idea how to go backwards, so I'm just going to go with this. This was ahead of the boxcar project and the water tower, but this is some additional track work actually in Como, actually connecting the station with the roundhouse. And here's our chairman measuring the one tender of 168 to verify that they get the stuff right, as Jimmy is prone to do. Don't tell him I said that, though. So how can you help? You can become a member in most cases, especially if you're in the US. It's a tax-deductible donation. You can support our projects. You can tell others about us. And together, we're working together. It's a small group with a little bit of money. We've been able to, I think, hit some significant models and artifacts, preserve them, and to rehab equipment that was not operating prior to us. And I guess that's the end of the slideshow. I'm welcome to take any questions.